Hi everybody, Kerrie here at the North East Autism Society, and today I'm joined by Kieran Rose, and we're going to be talking about feelings after a diagnosis from a parent's perspective. So Kieran, just for people that don't know who you are and what you do, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. Hi everybody, my name's Kieran and I am an autism consultant, trainer and writer, and I have 3 children, 2 of whom are diagnosed autistic.
Okay, so Kieran, when your children got that official diagnosis, you heard the words officially, how did you feel? What was your first feelings?
Interestingly for me, especially with my youngest daughter, my youngest, positivity. It was a validating experience for me and for them. When my eldest son was diagnosed, which was a lot earlier, a few years earlier, again, it was validating for me, but it was interesting because my wife had a little bit of a different perspective on that, because it was kind of, she went through the process, I think, of what a lot of parents go through when they haven't really been around autism or autistic people before, which can kind of be, can be a little bit negative and a bit of feeling quite upset and emotional about it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because I think we've got to appreciate that, and I work with a lot of families where they can go through that. I don't know if we call it the transition process or the cycle of change. It has all different names, doesn't it? But there can be a lot of negative feelings attached to that, and I think it's important to mention that it's okay, isn't it, to feel like that at that point.
Yeah.
But I think what we talk a lot about is getting to the point of acceptance, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's really, I can understand why people go through those emotions. And I think a lot of it is around issues with society and expectations and things like that. And also it's around that negative culture around autism as well, because lots of people hear that word and feel scared, because it's you're projecting into the future. You only really hear about negative experiences of autistic children and adults, and so it's kind of, there is a fear factor attached to it. So I can understand why that's there, but it's really, really important, firstly, that your children don't pick up on that, and secondly, that you move on from that really, really quickly, because projections are projections. That's all they are. You can't predict what's going to happen in the future, and the child that you have in front of you in 10, 15, 20 years time is going to be a completely different person. And a lot of that depends on how you are with them and what they pick up from you as well, all the things that you teach and how you model and stuff like that. And it's about, at the end of the day, your child receives a diagnosis. They're the same child as they were the day before. And nothing has changed. You just now have a name for something that's happening in your life. That's all it is. And actually, that should be a really powerful thing, because that's a tool, because that's something you can use to go out and seek information from. But I think lots of parents get bogged down in fear and struggle to get past that. And that can be a really difficult thing. And also for a lot of parents, I think as well, they get fear because they might see themselves in their children as well. So it's and that's a really difficult thing to process as well. They might see their own struggles and project from that as well, because we know that autism is hereditary. So for lots of parents, it might be that they're unidentified as well.
Definitely. But I think what you're saying, all our parents' feelings are very valid, absolutely. So there isn't a right or wrong way to feel. I think that's important to state. But I think a lot of it, Kieran, because obviously if you're in a diagnostic process and you're getting, you're having to talk about your child often in a very negative light, aren't you? And the process could have took months or years, and that is all like really difficult to manage and emotional and filled with a lot of negativity. It's that society. It's that puts the kind of the pressure on parents.
That's the issue, and that's the kind of, and you hear about parents struggling with schools and things like that, and children having bad experiences, and all of those and those things do exist, and they are very, very common. But what it's really important to latch onto is that is not the fault of an autistic child, and nor is it the fault of autism. It's the fault of a society which is unaccepting and which doesn't do what it's supposed to do in order to meet the needs of the people that live in it. So it's really, really important to kind of when you are feeling those negative thoughts, to recognize that those negative thoughts aren't actually what's going on in front of you. Those negative thoughts are caused by things that are happening outside of your control.
Definitely. No, absolutely. So I suppose, Kieran, do you have any, you know, a takeaway tip or idea for parents that have just received a diagnosis for their child? What if you could give them one piece of advice, would you tell them? Would you
I would wish. I mean, I wish I could stand on the doorstep of every CAMS building in the country and give the parent a hug as they come out of the door and tell them it's going to be okay. You know, because from the moment you hear that word or the moment the diagnosis happens, generally it's very, very negative. It's negative from the person who delivers the diagnosis. It's the whole thing is. So what I would wish that parents would do would be to go out and seek videos by autistic people in real life, writing by autistic people, not necessarily dive headlong into existing amongst autistic people in an autistic community, because it's a real culture shock.
Yeah.
You know, the communication is very different, and it can be quite challenging for lots of parents. So I would say, you know, in the same way that I kind of, when we did our video about people being diagnosed as adults, go out and soak it up and soak out as much information, but be very aware that textbooks, professionals are often coming from a place of observing from the outside. They haven't got that inside perspective. They don't really understand what's going on inside the head of an autistic person, but autistic people do. And that's a real key thing.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's been really insightful from a parent perspective and as an autistic person as well, Kieran. So thank you for that. I'm sure we will see you very soon. So see you later, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.